So today we are celebrating the achievements of the WISE COVID Unsung Hero Data Solution Award winner, Ming Tang. Ming is pictured here accepting her award from Princess Anne at the award ceremony in February 2022. As I mentioned, before we introduce Ming, I'm very pleased to welcome our interviewers today, Angela McFarlane and Shema Ali, both from IQVIA, who they were our judges at the COVID Unsung Hero Awards. Angela is the Vice President for Strategic Planning at IQVIA. She was nominated by Pharmaceutical Marketing Europe as one of the top 30 women in healthcare in the UK in 2018, and is also the co-founder of IQVIA's Women Inspired Network. Shema holds an executive leadership role within IQVIA with responsibility for the offering strategy across IQVIA's UK capabilities, serving government, life sciences and healthcare customers. As I mentioned earlier, Ming is our COVID Unsung Hero Data Solution Award winner and is currently the Chief Data Analytics Officer for NHS England and NHS Improvement, and is responsible for strategic development of data and analytics capability across the NHS. Ming has over 20 years experience of managing and delivering large-scale change involving implementation of new operating models in complex and challenging environments. A big welcome to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Hannah. Ming, it's great to see you following the awards back in February. It seems a long time since then, and lots of water under the bridge. So we really just wanted to have a conversation. We wanted to get under the skin of, what prompted you to enter for the award, and the work that you did to actually win the WISE COVID Unsung Heroes Data Solution Award. So can you share with us the work and actually what went into that award? Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. Yeah, it's just looking back. The award was based on the work that we did in the COVID-19 data store. So at the beginning of COVID, we were very conscious that we wanted to make sure there was an information pool available and gathered all the data. We created the infrastructure, the governance processes to make data accessible to all those people that needed it. So that's people in the health service, our analysts who were doing a lot of the modelling work, and then really for research. And that was really important, as we were really trying to harness the data so that everybody had access, but it was consistent. The worst thing that can happen in pandemic is whether there's different versions of the truth, and then people lose trust in the data. So we're very cognizant of making sure we engendered trust in the data, actually make it very clear to the public what we were using the data for, and increase the transparency of our understanding of COVID as it kind of came through. So it became a huge resource pool.
Ming, just very quickly, just picking up on a couple of words there. You talk about the COVID data store. Perhaps not everybody that's going to be listening to this broadcast would know what that is. And you talk about the data. What data are we talking about? Again, for people who are not quite as familiar as you are.
Okay, so the COVID data store basically is the data warehouse that we put all the data into. And the data, primarily, it is hospital data, testing data, data whether quite a lot of counts of what staff were impacted by COVID, how many beds were available, where there was shortfalls for oxygen machines, ventilation, PPE, vaccination, basically everything that we needed to operate and plan against the virus and the spread of the virus.
Thank you.
I think I'm going to take it over here, Ming, and ask you a little bit about your previous career and education, and what in particular attracted you to this role.
So I've been in the NHS for 13 years now. This is my 13th year, and I had done quite a lot. I mean, I started out as a pharmacist, I should say, although I worked in industry, worked in pharmaceuticals for GlaxoSmithKline for a number of years, and then went into consulting. And during my career in consulting, I was, you know, a supply chain director, always worked with information and really operating model changes and big changes. It was a personal circumstance. I was working in Australia as a partner in running the Southeast Asia practice, and my mum fell ill. So really I wanted to get back into the UK. Coming back into the UK environment from where I was in Australia is very different. A lot of the sales was more orientated towards outsourcing. My heart wasn't really, it's not that outsourcing is a bad thing, it just wasn't for me. And I was looking for something to give back. And it was just by happenstance that I bumped into someone who said, you know, we're looking for someone to look after a shared service that we've built, to professionalise it, to make it more scalable and deliver a service across 17 PCTs as they were then in the West Midlands. Would you be interested of doing this, helping us set it up, get it going for a couple of years? And then that's how I bit the NHS bug, I guess. Coming into the NHS, it was such a different environment from industry. It was very rewarding in a different way. It was very interesting to see what resources we had and how much we could do with the resources we had compared to chucking money on all the newest things. So there was a different culture and a different way of doing it. And I guess the NHS gives you an opportunity to make impact to patients on the front line. And that's, from a values perspective, really important. And that journey then, you know, I started doing more stuff on more national projects, and from there then, you know, my career kind of moved through the ranks into national director, and now I'm the chief data and analytics officer. I think it's more a case of me wanting to continue to do the good stuff and keeping that vision.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Just pick up a little bit on if I can ask you just to cast your mind back, Ming, just for a moment. When you saw the need for what you did that led to winning the Data Solution Award, what was the timescale of that? So we're talking March, April 2020, and how did this impact your working day and your working nights? You know, because you're an unsung hero for a reason.
So I guess the journey started actually December 2019, when we were starting to see the spread of the virus and really starting to understand what would we need to do to start tracking it. And then, you know, we were just keeping an eye on it and getting recorded. It was around about the time when NHSX were also working very closely with government to say, actually, tech and data can make a difference. And I worked very closely with Indra Joshi. And between us, we said, actually, let's pull our teams together when the crisis happened, and let's work with industry, let's change the mould. We can't do all of this on our own. We would work much faster if we worked with industry. Then came the idea of the data store. Then it was, okay, with the data store, what could we do with the information? And then obviously, you know, there was lots of things coming through from SPI-M modelling that were projecting quite severe increases in the virus and what we would need to do as an NHS to respond. So a lot of the pressure came from, actually, Ming, we need to understand what's going on. Can you help us kind of create a single version of what's going on so that we can help the NHS respond? So that's when we started working with companies like Faculty. You know, Google were there, they were trying to help us with mobility data. We had offers from Microsoft, AWS. Basically, the whole industry garnered around us, and we were able to say, this is where we want to blend the teams. These are the facilities that we would really be helpful for us to use. And we're extremely grateful to those organisations, you know, including Palantir, on which we then use the data platform. So it was very much breaking down the barriers, dropping the badges, and just saying the country needs us. What do we need to do to make sure we have the right solution?
Brilliant, brilliant. Shaima, I'll hand back to you.
We're kind of going back and forth a little bit into your past and the present day. So thinking about all of those difficult decisions and how agile you were, I wanted to touch on the support you might have had throughout your career. So have you had any role models or mentors, and do you still have role models and mentors that support you throughout your journey?
Yeah, lots. I'm a bit of a magpie. I don't believe one person's going to give me everything, right? So I'm also quite observant and quite curious. So I don't know if you've ever been in the meeting where you're seeing someone chair really well. I'm the type of person who would then contact that person afterwards and say, really like the way you chaired this meeting. Can you give me some tips? So I think I've captured my mentors that way, particular skills. Very early on in my career, there were two women that were fantastic who basically gave me the confidence and also a bit of a hand in saying, these are things you're going to find difficult as a woman in the man's world. These are things where you need to hold your own and develop some skills and some confidence around. And, you know, I'm most grateful for those. But I've had lots of mentors and support from men as well. You know, so I mean, you can't get on in this world without having those. And very kind people who basically have been very forward with their time, energy, listen to me, laugh, cry, and actually moan. I think we all need those people. And I would encourage everyone to get a variety. You know, I've seen people that aspire to be like someone else, and I think that's really hard to keep your authenticity and understand. So I think the journey around mentoring for me begins with you starting to understand yourself and therefore what you need, and actually look out for those people. So today, I mean, I was at a Data IQ lunch yesterday, and you know, there are inspirational people there that do really great things, and it's really keeping that network and always learning, because you know, the fun in my job is always learning, and it doesn't really matter where you learn from. You know, I've had inspiration and mentoring from very junior staff just because of their attitude and the way they go about things. So I think it's both a self-directed thing, but also be observant around why things work at certain times, because then you almost create this bag of ideas of when things will work and when they won't, because not all approaches work in all situations, and it's really how do you match the situation with that approach. That would be my advice to someone else coming through.
Yeah, a lot of useful tips in there and advice. And if you could go back to your schoolgirl self, would you have any different tips or recommendations?
Yes, absolutely. I guess when I was growing up, I had quite I was a hard-working person. My family background, you know, I don't come from a rich family. My parents ran the takeaway. They didn't really speak much English. So from a very early age, I was exposed to quite a lot of difficult conversations. And one of the learnings I reflect back on, you know, I remember sitting in front of a solicitor or a bank manager for my dad, translating exactly what he said, feeling very uncomfortable with some of the way that he was putting things across, and very much aware that I had to translate exactly as he did, otherwise I would get in trouble. So in that sense, I would say to my younger self, enjoy it, because actually that's what made me what I am today. That's why I don't fear authority. You know, there is a genuine learning from everything that you go through in your life if you give yourself the chance to reflect and look back and not be too hard on yourself. You know, because you could always do things better, but actually learning is the most important thing.
Thank you for sharing that, Ming. Yeah,
absolutely. And Ming, you know, we've talked about all the very positive things, but what about stumbling blocks as a woman in STEM, and how have you overcome them?
I think we've all had this, haven't we? I think most people have had it. You know, I started my first job in the late 80s, so I'm getting on. And I always remember joining bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. You know, my first job postgraduate, went into the factory at Speak, you know, Glaxo factory at Speak, fantastic role I had been given, and the guy basically asked me to make his tea, right, and then gave me, you know, one of my first jobs was to put whether it was really the environmental charts from one of the rooms and put them in, you know, date order, basically filing them. Okay, and I got really kind of, you could look at that and think, God, I've done 4 years at university. Why are you getting me to file stuff? And then he said, well, we've got an MCA, that's Medicines Control Agency, meeting next week, and with all these things, all these things have to be done. So I did it, and then I made his cup of tea, and I said, this is the last cup of tea I make for you, unless you're going to make me one. And I also said, please, I don't mind doing the menial tasks, but please explain to me why those menial tasks are important, and so that I can understand the context. And, you know, I'm here to do a job, so I'm not being precious about it, but don't treat me as if I don't understand. And I actually, in order to have that conversation, I'd gone into the toilets, had a little cry. I'd actually done my, I don't know, I always say to my mentees, do your superwoman pose, you know, stand up and just breathe and center yourself before going in. And so I was very calm when I went in, but I was also very assertive. And we're still friends. So the good thing is, those conversations, those difficult conversations are really important. That's a tiny stumbling point. Other stumbling points are really around when you get to certain career steps and you think you deserve the next level and that job's made for you and you don't get it. And then you start exploring why. All of those steps, I think for me, I've had a few of those, not loads, but few. I've always stepped around and thought, okay, they don't want me for that. What don't I fit? And am I willing to be that person or not? And then I've made my own calculation, usually not. I don't want to be that style of person if that's what they need. And I've gone round and done something totally different. So I think stumbling blocks are part of character building, that, you know, partly accepting in some ways things aren't fair, but it doesn't mean that they stop you. It just means that you need to be a bit more resourceful in how you get your way in a different way. I'm not a campaigner, but I do think it's important to show people that you can still succeed.
Yeah. I mean,
from do you want to go, Angela?
No, Shaima, carry on.
Leading on from that very nicely, how do you think you or the NHS can provide women with support in a STEM environment?
I think that, you know, if you look at the mixture of men and women in the NHS, it's actually pretty good. It's not, you know, it's not worse in industry. In data and analytics, we're not doing too badly either. I don't know the exact numbers, but we're not doing too badly. What I would say is we almost need to start earlier. So I would go back and work with schools. We're doing quite a lot of work with Multiverse on apprentices, really selecting people from less privileged backgrounds, making sure that we're giving those, you know, people a means to start. You know, we had a fantastic apprentice come through, Mary, who would, you know, you would ask her and she would say that she would never have done all the things that she did without that opportunity. So I'm really passionate about actually let's go back to schools, because I think helping girls realise they can, and that the STEM subjects are the means of getting towards doing a career that they would like. And data and analytics, particularly in the NHS, it's just so interesting, and it's so amazing, some of the things, that the impact that you can have, you know, just giving that clarity on that joy of what you can do if you get good at these subjects. You don't have to be a boffin, you don't have to lose your femininity. It doesn't mean that you're no longer useful, but actually aspiring a bit more, because we need more women, we need the diversity in these subjects to make them good. You know, what women are really good at is collaborating. We're really good at making sure that the solutions really work, and that's why we need more women in STEM.
Yeah, absolutely. And just picking up on that diversity piece then, Ming, if you could change any one thing about NHS in terms of diversity inclusion, and I'm giving one thing, what would it be?
I would just want it to be the norm. I get a bit tired of talking about it. I just wish we didn't have to highlight it so much, because it's already there. That's why my one wish, so that all our processes and all our things happen, and we actually have diversity just as a normal thing. Because at the moment we're having to target, we're having to understand, we're having to measure, and that's, for some of us, that's actually quite difficult, because I'm the only Chinese female exec. If you do that in a survey, if you voice that, it's very open who you are. That's not a bad thing, but I wish we didn't have to. If that would be my one wish.
Thank you for that. I just want to link in now. So again, sort of building on some of the comments that you made earlier about getting girls before they go to university passionate and engaged and wanting to pursue a career in STEM. Women in science and engineering is all about that. So what more do you think that WISE could do to increase the profile, a number of young women going into STEM?
I think it's really highlighting the variety of careers people can have, because I think STEM subjects are quite dry if you don't see the context of its application, and the application comes through in the diversity of the roles that you can do, and the fact that actually it's not a hard skill only. In fact, actually, you can be quite creative. I think all our analysts are really creative. When you do visualization, there's a real creative side of your brain that you have to do. And actually, all data and analytics now is about narrative. It's about storytelling, and we want more women in that. So I think it's highlighting those things. And if I talk to the younger analysts, they didn't realise that coming through university, the type of roles that they would be able to do through a STEM subject. And I think the other side of it is, when young girls are expected to do all science subjects, it then makes it really difficult for them to do other things, because they're quite solid subjects, and it's almost helping to create some different career paths. So I'm a big believer in people should be able to change their career path later on, and actually learn while they're doing on the job, because some people learn better on the job. So that the apprentices is a really good one, but having more junior team members come join and learn and then decide what they want to do. Some of the work that we're doing on career levels is very much about, you don't have to pigeonhole yourself too early, learn a variety of skills, and then that gives you more offering. Sometimes if you specialize too early on, you have less choices later. So actually making sure that people have an understanding of the roles and the routes through, and do that through real people, would be a really great thing that WISE could do.
So very much hearing consistently coming through your conversation, Ming, that getting in early, with having these conversations with girls in the school setting. Maybe we should be, I noted your point there about having to study all science subjects, and sometimes if you're not good at every single one, physics, chemistry and biology, you drop out early and then you end up doing none of those. So maybe there's a conversation that WISE should be having with the Education Secretary, whoever that may be, over the next few days. Sian, I'm going to hand back to you.
Yes, so I think we've got a couple of final questions. One of them, again, builds on the conversation we've just had around what messages would you give to women or girls wanting to pursue the STEM career?
I think just go for it, and go and talk to some other women that are in those types of roles, and don't be shy about asking for help, understanding what their routes are, because the routes are just so varied. There's no one route, and also be a bit more curious about what you're passionate about. If you're really passionate about engineering, then there's a certain career path. If you're really passionate about maths but don't really know how to apply it, then there are a plethora of analyst roles at the moment. Data science is a really good one. you know, getting young girls to start coding early is a good way of getting them into that thinking. The neural networks in your brain need to kind of be wired early in order to understand some of these things, and you can do it in a fun way. It doesn't always have to be hard work, but actually seek out. I mean, I ended up being a pharmacist because I sought out my local pharmacist because I didn't want to do medicine, and asked him, well, what is it that's good? And he didn't say come and work in a chemist. What he said was, here's what you can do in pharmacy, and you should go and look at these other resources. So that's what kind of made me realise, oh, actually, there's a lot more I can do with pharmacy.
Thank you. And then finally, has the award itself been useful to you on a personal or a professional level?
On a personal level, what's been lovely about the award is I've never seen my mum beam as much as when she saw the photo. She was so proud. She's a real royalist. So from her perspective and how proud she's been with her family, that a member of our family have met royalty, so that's been fantastic. So that really was, you know, personally, that was really good. I think for others, I'm hoping that having someone from an ethnic minority actually winning such an award gives hope to others, because actually, you know, that's what it's all about. Actually having someone in a leadership position that people can see actually is someone different is quite good. That's why I'm very happy to talk about. Actually, I come from quite a humble background, don't have anything special. I didn't do, you know, I did okay at school, but you know, it's a good way to proceed and work hard.
Amazing.
Ming. Thank you. That was very great.
I think you brought real passion to this conversation. Your authenticity absolutely shines through. But also, I think what's really come across as well is exactly why you are, you know, not just in COVID, but an unsung hero all the time. Your humility and your humanity really, really shines through. So thank you so much. I think that was really inspiring. Thank you, Ming.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
And thank you also on behalf of WISE, that was really, really inspiring. And thank you also to Angela and Sharma for that great interview. You're all fantastic role models. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.